So the trade deadline passed, the most exciting time. It was a more regular trade deadline. But let's still talk about it and see what's up. The trade deadline just passed, and I'm going to talk about every single move that happened, what were the specifics, and what does this include. First, I want to talk about Indiana and Golden State. Golden State gave up Corey Joseph and cash for a second round pick. This trade basically means nothing. Indiana will probably use Corey Joseph, give him a few minutes in every game. But this is not a trade that moves a lot. It was obviously the Golden State was trying to get more assets, probably to make some type of trade in the future. This is a short term trade. This does not affect anything. The Dallas Mavericks, they got Daniel Gafford, and they also had Dallas got Daniel Gafford for a first round pick and Rashawn Holmes. I think this is a good trade. Rashawn Holmes wasn't really doing much in Dallas, especially when they got Derek Lively. And I think Daniel Gafford will give them a better, center slash power forward rotation. He has a lot of athleticism, a lot of skill. He's a veteran, and he could probably give you some minutes, which you're going to appreciate a lot. Also, that he's been having an amazing season this season with the Wizards. The next trade, and by the way, there were a lot of trades, so I'm going to go through them pretty fast. I'm not going to spend too much time on one or the other because I do want to get through all of them. But then we had Delano Banton being traded to Portland for a second round pick to Boston. This was obviously to free up a roster spot, and so Boston could get a pick. Delano Banton doesn't move mountains, but I imagine in Portland he'll have a better opportunity than what he was getting in Boston. Boston received Jaden Springer. Listen to that, Jaden Springer for a second round pick to Philadelphia. I think that this was a mistake, as Jaden Springer's been playing very well for Philadelphia, looked very into his role, and has been given minutes at like 12 minutes per game, and has actually been doing some good things. Obviously, he's not a great player, and he's not moving mountains, but I do think that in Boston, he'll probably have more of a chance to shine, and especially by giving up a second round pick, you're not sacrificing anything in your trade. Milwaukee gave away Robin Lopez and cash. I think they just needed to get off a contract and probably just wanted Sacramento to take him and to take them some way. So Robin Lopez, I imagine that in Sacramento he'll either get bought out, waived, or he'll just be a backup center, which is a good guy. And this does not move the needle in any way. By the way, I do want to say that there are no big trades. There are a few small ones and trades which are going to affect, but the biggest ones I'll save them for last. Then to Indiana, Doug McDermott was traded from San Antonio. I actually really like this. I think Doug is good, and that in Indiana with Tyrese Halliburton, assisting him and being able to play the way that he plays, I think he's going to be much better. When he did start for San Antonio, he shot 42% from three, and in one season shot 53% from the field on 10 shots. So he could be a great power forward, small forward, give you some good minutes, and provide like a stretch big to really complement, the system that they're running in Indiana. As long as they play him, I think he'll be good. Milwaukee received Patrick Beverley. This is a bigger trade. Now we're getting into some of the bigger trades. Milwaukee received Patrick Beverley, which I think is an amazing trade, and I think he should start for Campaign and the 2027 second round pick. Campaign wasn't doing anything. Malik Beasley completely replaced what his role was originally with Milwaukee. And then a 2027 second for a team that's not looking to draft anybody is honestly worthless. So being able to trade two things which like a player and a pick which didn't really mean anything to you in the terms of the long run, right, is honestly very apparent, and it will make the Milwaukee better because their biggest problem is the defensive side of the ball, right? And they just got one of the best perimeter defenders in the league. Also, I want to say that now Philadelphia has traded Jaden Springer and Patrick Beverley, and they've received second round picks in campaign. So I just want to say that to say that there will be another trade for Philadelphia, but Philadelphia right now, it seems like the biggest loser of the deadline. And then the next trade is a three-team trade where Phoenix gets Royce O'Neal and David Roddy, Memphis gets Yuta Watanabe and Chimezie Metsu, and Brooklyn gets 3 second-round picks, Keita Bates-Diop and Jordan Goodwin. This trade is good for Phoenix as the players who they traded away weren't really doing anything, and the starters were really carrying that team. So being able to get a big guy, a guy who's comfortable, who's a vet, who can shoot and who can make plays, is honestly an upgrade in every sense of the word. For the other teams, Memphis is not really going to suffer anything from this, some seconds, but you got some good role players, and when Ja comes back, I imagine they will be able to play well. And for Brooklyn, you gave up Royce O'Neal, but you got 3 second-round picks, which is good as they're not looking to win any championship anytime soon. Now into the bigger trades, which actually move the league and actually have some significance. First, I want to say that Dallas acquired P.J. Washington for Grant Williams, Seth Curry, and a first-round pick. I do want to say that Grant Williams has been playing terribly, and even though Seth Curry is a great player, I think that they overpaid for P.J. Washington. P.J. is good. He's a good player, and he can really play. But having him be your guy right now, and be a power forward for you when he doesn't play defense, and your whole team, just gave away their best defensive player, is kind of ridiculous. Apart from this, you gave up a first-round pick. I think Charlotte is going to take both those older guys and buy them out and let them go to the market this offseason. And I think they're going to take that first-round pick and be very happy that they received it. Then Toronto traded for Spencer Dinwiddie, and Brooklyn got Dennis Schroeder and Thaddeus Young. I think this is the stupidest trade of all time for the Raptors. The Raptors gave up Dennis Schroeder, a great point guard who has been putting in the work, has been shooting pretty well, and has been your distributor for the entire season. And you gave it up for Spencer Dinwiddie, a guy who sucks, cannot shoot, shoots 40% from the field, it doesn't do anything apart from be a good person. And then also, at the same time, you gave up Thaddeus Young, which is a great vet who can, just come in and be effective. I think this trade for Toronto was really stupid, and I think Brooklyn fleeced. For New York, they got Bojan Bogdanovic and Alec Burks. They gave up a bunch of guys. They gave up Quentin Grimes, Evan Fournier, Malachi Flynn, Ryan Archicano, I'm sorry I botched his name, and 2 second-round picks. They gave up a lot of role players just to get 2 good role players, especially Bojan Bogdanovic, who's been having the season of his career, shooting great, and he's been very amazing recently. I think adding him to Detroit makes more lineups possible and makes them scarier in terms of the way that they play. I will say that they did take a pretty big hit to their depth, but a lot of the guys which they traded away, which were not named Quentin Grimes, didn't play a lot of minutes. Finally, there were a few other trades which happened, right? There were a few little ones and a few big ones, right? So the ones that I want to talk about are, first, Simone Fontecchio got traded to Detroit for Kevin Knox and some picks. This doesn't mean anything. Simone Fontecchio was great for Utah, but I think Utah's trying to lose more games, which makes sense. Xavier Tillman went to Boston. This is very good for Xavier Tillman, as all the Celtics had to give up was Lamar Stevens and a few picks, and they got a guy who's a vet and plays really well at his position. Monte Morris got traded to Minnesota. I think this is one of the best trades. and for Shake Milton and Troy Brown Jr. And a second, I think that Monte Morris in Minnesota is much better. And I think that Shake Milton and Troy Brown Jr., which are now in Detroit, are just gonna get more of a chance, to play in a different situation. They don't mean that much to Minnesota. Finally, the last three trades that I wanted to talk about are Toronto traded for Kelly Olynyk and Ochai Agbaji for Kira Lewis, Otto Porter, and a first-round pick. I think this trade is pretty okay. Kelly Olynyk is a great player, and I think at Toronto he'll be able to shine. And I do think that Toronto, especially after the downgrades that they've made, it's good that they got a good center for the future, which will run them some numbers. For Oklahoma City, they got Gordon Hayward. I think he'll be great. They traded away Trey Mann and Davis Bertans. They got off of their worst contract. They got a vet which expires in a year. And now they have a guy who can make threes consistently and be just a good, spirited guy for the team. Finally, the biggest trade of the deadline was Buddy Hield to Philadelphia, where Indiana got Marcus Morris and Furkan Korkmaz and 3 seconds. Buddy Hield is amazing. Marcus Morris and Furkan Korkmaz are two great role players, but I do think that if you're Philadelphia, they lost so much. I think that getting Buddy Hield is good, and especially when you're not gonna have Embiid for a lot of the year, it's good to have that guy that you can just rely to shoot the ball with high efficiency. I think that this trade deadline is amazing in terms of the fact that I think the teams that went well went really well, but the teams that went bad, it just didn't make any sense what they did. And I do think that with some of these teams, they probably should have either made or not made these decisions, and I just told you why.